an officer jumps out of his car with a gun, points it right at his head. So Music City Dream Cars, we quickly realized we need to get more cars, right? And the easiest way to get more cars was the profit share model, where we don't actually have to go out and buy the car. We don't have to fork out the capital. We can borrow it from a friend of ours. We were actually approached over and over. A lot of people have a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or just a classic car that sits in their garage, and it just, sitting there depreciating and not making them any money. Well, they offer to us, like, hey, can we put it in the fleet? You can rent it out for me. And, we ask Ed if this is a good idea. He says there's obviously a lot of issues with this, with insurance. There's some gray area, and it's difficult. We give it a shot. The Lamborghini Huracan is one car that we ended up profit sharing. And this was before we realized how much theft was going on in the industry. There's actually operation out of mostly Atlanta, where these professional thieves are producing driver's licenses. They're putting their picture on a valid driver's license. They're creating fake documentation. Insurance policies, credit cards, you name it. And they're very official looking. A lot of them are real. And a lot of it is identity theft, where they take someone's identity and it's an actual insurance documentation. It's an actual credit card and an actual driver's license of a specific person where they've stolen their identity, but they replace the picture with their own picture on it. Well, we had a situation with the Lamborghini Huracan. This lady comes in, she rents the Huracan, and we check her insurance. We call the insurance company. Every rental, we call the insurance company, validate you have enough property damage to cover the car in case it was totaled, and a little extra room for the other vehicle. You have to have a credit card on file, has to be swiped and run correctly. And then the driver's license, of course. It was her picture on the driver's license. This is near July 4th, and we notice, luckily our GM, Will Summer, he just happens to check online on the Azuga. We try to do it after every rental, and luckily he's doing his job very well, and he checks online, and he sees that this car is headed straight for Atlanta. I'm like, that's a little odd. Check to see if it stopped at a house or literally went straight to Atlanta, and it hightailed it straight there, speeding pretty aggressively. And once he hit the state line, of course, we're notified via email on our geofencing. We know exactly when a car leaves the state. That's when, the red flags start coming up a little bit. We call the customer, they're not answering the phone. It's a weird busy signal. It's almost like a burner phone number. So this was actually July 3rd, near midnight, when we found this out, because it was a late rental and a little sketchy. Well, we look back at the documentation, like, did we do something wrong? No, this documentation was legitimate, and these are professionals. And that was definitely her picture on the driver's license. But one thing we did miss was it said, everything looked legit except that it said male on the driver's license and not female. So one of my guys completely whiffed on that. But, we're nervous. I call the owner of the car, and he's not really sure what to do. And I'm like, man, who do we know in Atlanta? Well, we know Ed Bullion, so you may have seen the other story with the stolen Huracan. Well, I call him up. Ed helped us get started. We bought some cars from him, and he was one of our consultants. And I'm like, I'm giving him a call. It's midnight, and it's now July 4th in the middle of the night. And when he answers the phone, I tell him the story, and he's willing to jump out of bed. Must be blessed to have a wife that will let him jump out of the bed on a holiday to go chase a car. Ed and I had already been talking in the prior weeks, because we actually had an Audi R8 go missing as well. Of course, to Atlanta. We were down here searching for it. We had our GPS readout signaled that this R8 was in a garage not too far from Georgia Tech's campus, kind of on the more lower income side. I was like, I got to get in there somehow. I couldn't get through the security. It's in the middle of the night. So I actually paid a homeless guy $5 to jump the fence. And the second he lands on the other side of the gate, an officer jumps out of his car with a gun, points it right at his head. And luckily, he didn't shoot. I yelled, "Don't shoot, don't shoot." And he's like, he shoot him away. And we were never able to actually search that parking garage. Yeah, after the R8 goes missing, we'd already been talking with Ed a little bit about the dangers of theft and rental cars. So, I end up sending an email out to everyone, because I don't want to run a business where this kind of risk is happening. I want people to know. I don't want people liable for, it kills me when this kind of thing happens. And so I sent an email out. If this situation happens, if your car's stolen, you may never get it back, and you may never get a check from insurance, because it is a very gray area, because you think an insurance company isn't going to insure their client to steal another vehicle. We're on the phone for a couple hours, trailing the car, telling them exactly where it's at based on the Azuga readout on the GPS. Luckily, we had just installed a camera up near the rear view mirror. We installed a camera to use it if we need to. And the thief thought that was the GPS. So we found out later that that was ripped out probably in Nashville right as they were leaving. But all we had actually was a OBD reader, GPS unit in the OBD reader. All you had to do was pop it out. We are notified immediately when that happens, of course. But luckily, we just installed this camera system. They thought that was the GPS, so they ripped that out instead, thinking they're free. Well, we know exactly where they are. Ed's trailing them. I'm on the phone with Ed, like go left, go right. He luckily knows his way around Atlanta. After a couple hours, we end up at a wrap shop in Atlanta, and that's where the car's parked based on GPS. And so, I'm like, Ed, please go in there and go get our car back. And he's like, I'm not going in there alone. And I was like, I don't blame you. Could be dangerous, right? To get the police out there was a total nightmare. I honestly had to make up a couple lies just to, like, hey, we're in Atlanta. At first, they refused to help someone from Tennessee. It's jurisdiction. The car was stolen from Tennessee. So they literally told us that in order for us to go get your car, you have to give them a 10-day written notice. Legally, the legal ramifications with the car rental business in general is very tough. The car's not stolen until you've given the customer an appropriate amount of time to return the vehicle. And so we had to claim, identity theft and credit card theft, and just to get them to take action, because otherwise you got to wait 10 days to go get your car. It's a little ridiculous. And that's why companies like us, it's hard to stay in business. Eventually we got the police out there on some crazy story we made up just to try to get our car back. And they meet up with Ed, and Ed tries to talk him into going into the show, into the custom shop with him. And, they can't just go and walk into other people's businesses without a good reason. So, they're doing their job. They're planning, no, sorry, we can't really help you out, Ed. Well, eventually he smooth talks him somehow and gets them to, okay, we'll casually walk in with you. And they open the door. They go inside this wrap shop, and it's 1 or 2 a.m. There's people working in the showroom. There's people doing their job, and it's like business as usual on a holiday in the middle of the night. That's a little sketchy, right? After talking with the people in there and claiming hey, this isn't your car. You shouldn't be taking it apart. It's a rental. You're not allowed to be. They were taking components out of the dash and reconfiguring things, and we were within probably 20 minutes of never seeing this car again. Eventually, Ed was able to talk them into handing the key over. Hey, we don't want any trouble. Once they saw the police obviously made a big difference. And, we're a little nervous because Ed's he's a consultant, but he has no direct affiliation with our company. He's just a random guy, according to the police officers, right? And the guys with the stolen car. And then, of course, the whole Waffle House incident when the actual thief is at Waffle House trying to get Ed on the phone with us, 3-way phone calls, trying to get him to be picked up at the Waffle House around the corner, and not taking us seriously at all. Eventually, the guys at the wrap shop handed the key over to Ed, and he drove the car safely to the VINwiki showroom, and we luckily got our car back. We were within 20 minutes of never seeing that car again. Luckily, Will, our GM, was checking the GPS. Luckily, I had a good relationship with Ed, and he helped us out in the middle of a holiday. When you're profit sharing exotic rentals, theft is, as you guys probably heard, it's a very gray area. And so this recovery probably saved the owner of the car almost $200,000.
We'd like to thank Avalon King for their continued support of the VINwiki YouTube channel. You can check out the link in the description below for a discount on their Armor Shield 9 ceramic coating, or enter the code VINwiki at checkout. It adds hardness to the paint, increased clarity, and makes it much easier to clean. So be sure to check them out today.